Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be previewing the Cubs Padres series that is going to be in Chicago. It's going to be a four-game series. Right now, only three of the Padres starters have been listed. Those starters are Darvish, um, Musgrove, and Manaea. However, Darvish is slated to pitch tonight, Monday night. Tuesday, there's no one slated right now. It's kind of to be determined because Mike Clevenger is not traveling with this team as he is in COVID protocol. Um, and they had a doubleheader recently. So you have no Martinez, no Gore, and then yesterday you had Snell pitch. So maybe they bump Manaea to Tuesday, and then maybe they bump someone or they bump Musgrove to Wednesday. But it seems like they might be calling someone up or doing a bullpen day on Tuesday, but it's just too early to tell right now. We're not quite sure. For Monday's game, it is going to be Yu Darvish, who has pitched really, really well against a Cubs lefty in Steele, Justin Steele, who's 26 years old. He's struggled this year, not awful, but just hasn't really pitched a ton. Hasn't really pitched a lot in his career. Only 31 games played in the MLB, so a guy that the Padres should be able to hit. And then Tuesday they'll be going up against Kyle Hendricks, who has really struggled this year. And earlier this year when the Padres played him, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right. I believe that the Padres rocked him. I'll double check on that right now as Isaac goes, but that's kind of what's slated right now. This is after a series against the Rockies where we both said, and Chase was on that one as well. We said this should be one where you take 3 or 4 games. And the Padres split the series, and splitting the series isn't the worst thing in the world, but it felt pretty disappointing considering that the Rockies are not a very good team. So, Isaac, how do you feel about this Cubs series, and what do you feel about the 3 guys that the Padres will be pitching, and then obviously the questionable day in the middle?
Not only that the Rockies aren't a very good team, it was pretty much that the Padres had two chances to take over first in the NL West, and they didn't do it against a team that was very beatable, against two pitchers that were very beatable. I think that's what made it even more disappointing. I guess I don't mind splitting. You're gonna split those 4-game series. You're gonna lose series to teams like the Rockies, but it makes it more disappointing when the team up to 5 is not exactly playing their best baseball and you needed to win at least one of those 2 games. But you look at the Cubs as a team right now, I believe they're 12th in OPS, they're 15th in average, and I'm looking at the runs and they are 21st in runs. So I mean, when you look at the numbers, just the numbers from like an average and a OPS standpoint, they're an average hitting team. Wilson Contreras has been by far the best hitting catcher in baseball this year. He's been talked a lot about in trade talks, and I mean, of course, as Padre fans, knowing we might need some bats, he's been talked about with us. So has Ian Happ. I don't know how he's doing. I think he's having a pretty good season though. But Wilson Contreras has definitely been their guy, and I remember in that first series, he tore us up, man. He had himself a really good series, so he was basically the reason that we lost the games that we did. But overall, it's an average hitting deep offense. But Matt brought up a stat. They're like 1 for their last 49 with runners in scoring position. So they're definitely not doing very well. I looked at their recent schedule. They have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Um, Lost 5 in a row, and they got demolished by the Yankees, who are a very, very good team. So I guess there's no shame in that, but still not a very good time for the Cubs. So hopefully the Padres are able to capitalize on their recent struggles. But then you look at the pitching matchups. You got Justin Steele and Yu Darvish today. Yu Darvish has been fantastic pitching against his former team today. I didn't even think of that, but pitching against his former team today, Yu Darvish he's going in with, I believe, a 3.61 ERA. But outside of 2 pretty tough starts, or one, he's been arguably our second, third best pitcher, and Joe Musgrove has easily been our best pitcher. So it's not a diss on Yu Darvish. It's just that someone else has been so dominant that he's been our second best pitcher outside of those starts. Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea has been super consistent, always provides a quality start. So absolutely expecting that out of him today. Joe Musgrove, I mean, he's the leader in the Cy Young race right now. He's the leader for a reason. He's been fantastic. He has around a 1.5 ERA. He goes 6-7 deep every single one of his outings, and he's been the pitcher that we thought he could be. I don't know who's pitching for the Cubs other than Steele and Hendricks. I don't remember how good we did off Hendricks. I actually don't remember us doing very good off him, right?
No, I was totally wrong about that. We got
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah, he destroyed us. I definitely remember that game. He did very well, but I'm hoping, it's a little different around this time. The Padres come off a 2-game stretch where they only put up 2 runs in each game, so it's not very encouraging what they've done the past 2 games, or what they did prior to that is very encouraging. I'm expecting to see more of that offense rather than the offense we saw these past 2 games.
Yeah, and so for that Hendricks start, that was actually one where he went 8 and 2/3 innings, allowing no runs, so he was 1 out away from throwing a shutout. So, no, we did not rock Kyle Hendricks in that one at all. We actually got straight up destroyed by him. Now, I remember we were talking about it, and we're like, "Hey, Hendricks has been bad this year, like, this is a guy, like, kind of slow pitcher," and we were talking about him like, "This is a guy you could." I think we said either, "Look, you're gonna really, like, do great against him, or he's gonna expose our lineup," and then, of course, he exposed our lineup. The 149 in runners in scoring position, so that is the Cubs' last 49, like, attempts where there's been a guy in scoring position. 1 for 49. And, looking at the series, I think that's kind of a number. You see some of these pitchers that are slated for the Cubs, only 2 starters right now that are set up, but they're not a good team. They're a really bad team. They're one of the worst teams in the NL. Right now, they are the third worst team in terms of winning percentage, and they're tied for the second least amount of wins with the Nationals, with only the Reds beneath them. So they're one of the bottom teams in the NL, and it makes sense. Like you brought up, Wilson Contreras has been great. Ian Happ has also been really, really good. He's hitting 275, 844 OPS, 7 homers. Patrick Wisdom doesn't really hit that well, but he has 12 home runs. Wilson Contreras has 900 OPS right now, and he's been the guy for them. So he's been awesome. Seiya Suzuki, he's cooled down a little bit. He started off the year hot, still all right in the high 700s OPS, hitting 245. So nothing terrible. He's a plus defender, but you look at this team, and I mean, it's what what we kind of expected from the Cubs this year. They're rebuilding. They're in a little bit of a reload year. Now, I think the one thing I know that Stroman's been struggling a lot earlier this year. He's got rocked quite a few times. I think that has been like a big issue for them. But besides that, it's not anything like out of the blue, right? It's not anything where you look at them and go, "Oh, why are they losing these games?" Now, last series they got absolutely destroyed by the Yankees. I think yesterday the Yankees scored 18 runs if I'm not wrong. So yeah, they were getting absolutely whooped. And I know that they were like throwing position players in over the weekend too. Like it was just bad. So they're coming off one. If you want to play a team that's like really struggling, the Cubs are exactly that kind of team you want to play. But you mentioned the Padres. I don't want to say lack of offense because it's like, yes, there's a lack of offense, but not always. It's like kind of up and down. Like, oh, they'll score a bunch and then they'll go on like this really like cold streak, like in this past series. But overall, right now, where do the Padres rank in total runs? They're 12th. Like they're not, and that's the whole MLB. So like they're a little bit above average in scoring, and their pitching's been so good. So I think in terms of predictions for this one, I think you should win the Darvish start, you should win the Manaea start, and you should win the Musgrove start. Those are those 3 and Gore have been the 3 guys where it feels like you should usually win that game. Now, there's always times where and we've seen it, we saw it with Snell yesterday, where your pitcher comes in, gives you a quality start, and you still lose the game. Like, you shouldn't have lost the game yesterday if Snell gives you a quality start. Unfortunately, you did. That's gonna happen. There's a ton of baseball games in a season. That's why, like, you're gonna have some games like that. But I think looking at this one, I think this is another one where you should be expected to win 3 or 4 in this one. So, and yes, it's on the road, but Padres have hit pretty good on the road too. I mean, we've seen that they're especially early on the season in Petco Park, but I think 3 or 4 is what the target should be for this series.
3 or 4, I think, is what I expect also. I mean, like you said, the Padres are 12th in runs. You look at the rest of their stats and they're like 20th or worse, but they're putting up a lot of runs. Timely hitting has been the recipe for this Padres team. It seems like the recipe for winning this series is going to be getting to that Cubs bullpen. They're 19th in bullpen ERA right now with a 4 above a 4. I think it's a little over a 4, like a 4.31, something like that. So you're going to want to get to that Cubs bullpen as soon as possible. The Padres bullpen has gone up to 10th after being ranked very, very, very low after the first month of April. So, I mean, the pitching's absolutely there for the Padres every single series. It's going to be some of the same this series. But nothing much really to say other than that. I mean, the Padres are going in with a couple hot hitters. Jurickson Profar had himself a little bit of a lackluster series, but Jurickson Profar has been fantastic. Other than that, Jake Cronenworth is starting to wake up. Trent Grisham has, I believe, like an 820 OPS in his last 15 games. So Yeah, man. I mean, this is a good Padres team still, even if they lost those 2 games to the Rockies. It was unfortunate, but, like I said, those type of series are gonna happen. Absolutely expect to take 3 or 4 from the Cubs. Unfortunately for Cubs fans, it is a little bit of a low time, like you said. The Yankees put up 18 on them yesterday, put up 8 on them the day before. So, um, I don't know. I'm hoping the Padres do a little bit of the same and go on a little bit of a streak here.
Yeah, and that'd be pretty big, especially because we've seen some like yesterday we saw a good game from Luke Voigt. Saw it. We've seen a few in the past week or so from Jake Cronenworth, Trent Grisham, some of those guys that weren't early contributors that we were kind of banking on to be guys to really help generate some offense in this lineup. They've been coming through over the last couple weeks, so hopefully we see all those guys kind of have some success. But I think you're right in terms of the series. 3 or 4 seems like the number. I'm really interested to see what happens on Tuesday too, because we were looking into it before. We just couldn't find out who was pitching. um, I I feel like it's probably a bullpen day, but it kind of bums me out because I'm like, you could have brought Reese Kinnear up just to start this one, just like, hey, like let's show him. But he did look good when he came in on Saturday as well. So big plus there. But I think that's gonna do it for today's episode. So for the next couple days, we're gonna have 2 segments out. I know one of them is going to be about Eric Hosmer, basically reducing his role because he has been. I don't know if you saw this, Isaac, but he has been the third worst player in the entire sport over the last month. So we're going to be talking about that, about his big slump, talking about reducing his playing time, which has already actually been happening a lot. I don't know if many people have noticed that, but his playing time has got significantly reduced over the past few weeks. So we're gonna have an episode on that. Not sure what Wednesday's episode will be, and then on Thursday we'll be doing another series recap. We'll be going live, so make sure to tune in for that. But with all that said, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you all then.